In this video, I am saying yes to the dress. Stay tuned for the details. If you're new to my channel, I'm Denise Jordan, and I teach women to make wise home health and beauty decisions. So if you want to learn more about running a household or see reviews about products that can benefit you in your home, subscribe, because I do videos about those topics all the time. So hit that subscribe button and tap that little bell icon so you don't miss any upcoming videos. But definitely check out the show notes in the description box below, because that's where I'll link my favorite housekeeping and gardening solutions. Okay, let's jump into it. Patrice at Random Bites of a Sweet Life has issued a challenge to all of us, and what it is that she wants us to say yes to the dress, and by that she wants us to share our wedding dresses and our wedding stories. And I am so excited to share mine. I asked my husband to go up in the attic to see if my dress was still up there, because I had put it in a box with some other stuff. And when he went up there to look, he found one of my sister's wedding dresses, one of my daughter's prom dresses, and my wedding veil. The dress was nowhere to be found. I was so disappointed. So let me just share this picture that we have from the wedding. I'll try to pop it up so that you can see it. Look at us, aren't we adorable? I tell you what though, this challenge has really allowed me to walk down memory lane and remember one of the most important and one of the most memorable days of my life. Now let me just share with you a little bit about my history. You know, at the end of the videos, I always say I've managed a home for more than 45 years. Well, I've actually been married 46 years, and we're going to be celebrating our 47th wedding anniversary this year. And I met my husband when we were seniors in high school. We were high school sweethearts, so it's so cliche. We dated all of senior year. We went to the senior prom together, and then we went away to college together. We both went to IU in 1969 as part of the groups program. So one of the first questions that's asked is, where did we get our wedding dress? And I remember that at the time we had a store in town called Stillman's, and it was a big department store, and it had like all occasion gowns and bridal gowns and really special occasion kind of gowns. And I had gone down there to try on dresses, and I had gone by myself, and I remember there was two ladies helping me try dresses on, and they were Caucasian ladies, because at that time there were no black women working in those kind of department stores. And I remember when I had my dress on, that one of the ladies said, and I was looking in the mirror, and one of the ladies was standing behind me and one was to the side, and one of the ladies said, she has a nice straight back. And I was so proud that I had a nice straight back. Now, I didn't know why that was important. I had never really heard anyone talk about having a straight back before, but I remember her saying she has a nice straight back, and I was just happy and proud that I had a straight back. Well, what I learned as a part of my nursing program is that in some women, particularly Caucasian women with certain ethnicities, that a curvature of the spine will occur as the women start to age. And so probably one of the ladies might have been dealing with something like that at the time. I don't know, but I just remember she said she's got a nice straight back, and I was just so proud that I had a straight back. And I remember I even stood up just a little bit straighter, and I just felt so special just looking at myself in the mirror. And I'll tell you guys, I kind of struggled with whether or not to share my wedding, because I got married in a turquoise blue dress, and it was this color, and the dress was just beautiful. It was kind of a Grecian style. It was very straight. It had like pink and white daisies in a band that was like right under the bust. It had long sleeves, and it was so pretty. But it was turquoise blue, and I wanted to get married in a white dress. But I was pregnant at the time. I was a junior in college, but I was pregnant at the time. And my mother had said, if you wear a white dress, I'm not coming to the wedding. And I wanted my mother to come to the wedding, so I allowed her to blackmail me and not wearing a white dress. Well, what I realized later on is that that was all about her and issues she was dealing with and had nothing to do with me. And I wish I had been assertive enough at the time to say, well, Mom, I'll see you at the reception. But I wasn't, because I did want my mother there. So I chose a dress that I wanted that was beautiful and that did make me feel like a bride. And when I had my husband go up in the attic to see if the dress was there, and he couldn't find it. But when I got the veil out of the bag, I remember I went into the bathroom and I put it on, and I was looking in the mirror, and the next thing I know, I'm doing this. You know, I put the veil on and like this, and I kind of put it around my shoulders, and I was like, oh, and I called my husband. I said, Will, come here. And he came, and he stood there in the doorway, and he looked at me for a second, and he said, you're just as beautiful as the day I married you. And I'm like, oh my goodness, thank you. Now, of course, that's not true, but I tell you what, at that moment, I felt like I was 20 years old again. It was just such a nice feeling, and we just kind of stood there and looked at each other and just thought back to our wedding day. So Patrice, I want to thank you for helping me to kind of walk down memory lane and recapture those memories, because you know, I've looked at the pictures from time to time, but I never really pulled out the feelings. And on this particular day, it was like we were both feeling just very nostalgic, just thinking about that day. So now let me just tell you a little bit more about the wedding. Let me see what other questions she had on here, because I'm getting all emotional now just thinking about it. Well, I already told you that I met my spouse in high school. We were high school sweethearts. And as far as a honeymoon, we didn't take much of a honeymoon. We got married on a Saturday, and then we had the weekend together here in the town where we live. We had a hotel for the weekend, and we had a lot of fun eating out and staying at the hotel. And then the following week, we went back to college because we had a year of college to finish up. So we went back to school to take care of that. And let's see. And we got married on May 13th. And so the interesting thing about that is that when we got married, the next day was Mother's Day. So every year, our anniversary, Mother's Day, is always very close to our anniversary date. So that particular year, Mother's Day was the next day. And we got married at my grandmother and grandfather's home. They had a beautiful home on the southeast side of town, and we got married in their family room. And my grandmother was the pianist for the church. My grandfather was the pastor, and my grandfather married us, and my grandmother played the piano. And my two little sisters were the flower girls, Mickey, who you guys all know at Live, Laugh, Love, and Pray, and my other sister, Lynn. And then one of the other things about getting married the day before Mother's Day and my grandmother being the pastor's wife is that everyone sent her flowers. And so her whole house was just like a bower of flowers. There were so many fresh flowers everywhere. We had bought flowers to kind of put in certain places in the room, kind of like you do when you have them up at the altar at the church. But there were so many more flowers than we ever could have afforded. And it was just magical. It was just magical. It was just so nice. And one of the things that I remember, well, three things from the wedding is, one, I was late getting to the wedding because was getting my hair done, and I arrived to the house late, and my husband and his brothers were already there because they were like the best men and all that stuff. And he gave me this look like, I cannot believe you were late to our wedding. And and he said he was never late a day in his life until he married me. So was the first thing. And then I remember one of my sister-in-laws, who was a little younger than I was, maybe a year or so younger, had brought her little sister to the wedding. And her little sister, whose name was Wanda, must have been about 12. And I remember when I came walking in with my gown and I looked over to the left, Wanda was like peeking out from around one of the plants that my grandmother had in her home. And it was just nice. It was so cozy. And then the third thing that I want to share, and you guys will get a laugh out of this, is that Mickey was my baby sister. Well, she is my baby sister. She was 3 or 4 at the time, and she was one of the flower girls. And I remember she came down, and Lynn came in, and she sprinkled flowers like a pro. And then it was time for Mickey to come in. And Mickey walked in and just stood there, and then she looked around, glaring at everyone. And one of my other sisters said, like, Mickey, come on, sprinkle the flowers. And so she reaches into the basket, and she just threw a big bunch of flowers on the floor, like, boom, and then walked over to, like, one of my aunts or something and sat down. And my husband said later, I told you we shouldn't have had her in the wedding. But, it's like one of those things we look back on and we laugh. And it was such a cozy wedding. And all the people that I loved, the people that were most important to me, were right there. And this was during the time when most people got married at the church, and then you had the reception immediately following the ceremony in the church basement. You gave the invitation to the church, and like the whole church came to the wedding, that kind of thing. But we didn't do it that way. We got married at my grandparents' home, but then we had the reception at the church, and then of course the whole church was invited to the reception. And I remember at the reception, there were just so many people there, and my grandfather's sister and her husband had a catering business, and so Aunt Ernestine made the wedding cake, and it was like a 3-tiered wedding cake in white with like pink and blue flowers on it. And they also made the food, and we had these little finger sandwiches, and we have a family recipe for chicken salad that we always make for like baby showers and special occasions. You make it and then you cut the crust off the bread, just little tiny finger sandwiches. And we had that and punch and all that kind of stuff at the reception. And my aunt was saying how pleased she was to like bring the cake to the church and to make the food for my wedding reception. And now when I think about how weddings and receptions happen today, it's not quite as intimate or as cozy. I'm not saying it's not as nice, because when our daughter got married, we certainly gave her one of those huge weddings at the big hotel and all that kind of thing. But ours was certainly much more intimate and certainly very cozy, and the memories of it are just so nice. And then after the reception at the church, then we had another reception at one of my aunt's homes, and this was the reception where you had like drinks and then other kinds of food and things like that. But of course, at that second reception, there's a smaller crowd that's invited to that one. So that's about my wedding. Now, I always think it's nice to throw in a little trivia. So one of the things that I was wondering about was, when did brides start wearing white gowns for weddings? Because I do know that in some of the romance novels that I used to read, women would like wear their best dress or best suit and would get married in just their best whatever they had. Well, I found on Wikipedia that in 1840, Queen Victoria, when she married Albert of Saxe-Coburg, she wore a white gown. And when the pictures of her in the white gown, and the gown was kind of like trimmed in lace, became published, other brides began to emulate that. So that's kind of like when the white gown thing got started. Well, those are probably enough details about my wedding. You've probably heard more than you care to hear. As I said earlier, women can talk about their weddings ad nauseum. No matter how humble or how extravagant the wedding is, brides like to talk about their weddings. And every bride's wedding is special to her. And I also want to thank Laura at Bowhead Laura. We were talking on the phone the other day, and I mean literally talking on the phone. And I mentioned that I wasn't sure if I was going to participate in this collaboration because, I kind of always regret it. And I'll just say the word ashamed that I was pregnant when I got married and couldn't wear a white dress. And Laura laughed and she said, girl, it's been 46 years. You need to let that shame go. She says, get over that. And I thought, you know what? She's right. I just need to get over that. And the other thing is this, I realized there's probably somebody out there that needed to hear that story. But I will tell you that at the time when I found myself pregnant and I'm a junior in college, I was like, oh no, I'm going to be a statistic. And then I thought, okay, Denise, come on. I mean, already you're a junior in college, not a junior in high school, so you're not a statistic. And I was in a committed relationship and had been for a while, and then I wasn't alone. So it was really a lot different, but I still think just the fact that I wasn't allowed to wear that white dress at the wedding was just something that just kind of always stuck with me. So when my daughter got married, I decided that she would have the wedding that she wanted and that I wasn't going to be one of those mothers who tried to control the wedding and push my ideas off on her. And I know at times my husband thought that I was trying to plan the wedding that I always wanted. And I was not, because I was very pleased with the wedding that I had. But I was trying to plan the wedding that she wanted. And I remember she said, and I remember asking her, so what do you want your wedding to be like? And she said, I want to be Cinderella. And I thought, this is in one day in your life, you're going to be Cinderella. And that is exactly what we did. And I will say, he had a fit about the money. Oh my God. Fussing and fussing the whole time. But the day of her wedding, he thanked me for helping host such a beautiful event. I'm going to stop rambling now and invite you to check out Patrice's channel because she does some amazing work over there. She does lots of DIY, she does wedding centerpieces and all kinds of things like that. So if it's the wedding season and you're looking for centerpiece ideas, that's going to be a good place for you to start. And then also go through the playlist and check out what some of the other creators have to share about their wedding dates. I cannot wait to get through the playlist because if their wedding memories are just half as nostalgic as mine, I'm sure I'm going to be shedding quite a few tears. So my question to you is, what part of my walk down memory lane do you have questions about? Tell me in the comment section below. And just so you know, I've raised 3 children. I've managed a home for more than 45 years. And my 47th wedding anniversary is coming right up. And I'm a nurse by profession. So if you want to learn more about running a household, subscribe. I would love to have you as a member of the TNT community. In the meantime, this is Denise Jordan saying goodbye. I will see you in the next video.